Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from many and all corners of the universe. We find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and also I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the season finale of 2023's version of And I Quote. This is going to be a lot of fun. Our guest on this program is someone who is no stranger to quoting stuff, to playing video games, to celebrating all things geekdom, nerdom, fandoms, all that kind of jazz. He is an indie artiste, if you will, indie artist of Cre8-Bit Designs. Please welcome Nick to the stage. Nick, welcome in, my friend. How are you?
Thanks, Ryan. Doing pretty good. I'm happy to be on the show. Let's talk nerd stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you are joining us and you want to ask Nick any questions, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producer is going to be keeping an eye on it as we go throughout the course of this program. And don't forget to like and share this episode of And I Quote with all of your closest friends. And if this is your first time here, welcome. And we hope you enjoy this, whether it's live or on the replay. So Nick, let's take a trip back into what is known as the Wayback Machine here for just a moment. What would you say were some of your favorite movies or TV series growing up?
Geez. Okay. Well, I remember as far back as when I was 3 or 4 years old, and I watched things like Thundercats, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Inspector Gadget, all the Saturday morning classic cartoons from the late 80s. And it just resonates with me. Every time I see them, it just brings me right back to it. So I have a soft spot in my heart for that kind of material.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And what would you say were some of your favorite video games growing up to play?
Well, I have my father to thank for introducing me to the NES. I think I was about the same age, 4 or 5, when my dad got it for Christmas, and he showed me Dr. Mario for the first time. He played Pong and he played the Ataris and everything beforehand, but I got introduced to the NES. So Dr. Mario was the official first game I ever played, but I always remember watching my dad play Super Mario Brothers 3, and he was just so good, and he bought the cheat book and everything, like that showed you all the stage and how to get through every level. I just remember watching him in awe that he could fly through these levels, and he showed me how to beat Bowser and everything, and I sort of grew up with the Mario Brothers 3 kind of realm, and a lot of the early NES games I ended up playing. So again, holds a pretty sacred spot in my heart.
Wow. Now I got the Mario Brothers theme song, the 8-bit, running through my brain. So thanks for that.
Constantly running here.
It's constantly running in your neck of the woods, respectively. Okay, so I'm not the only person who's thinking this right now. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Just out of curiosity, though, were you ever exposed to the world of comic books? And if so, what are some of your favorites or favorite characters?
Sure. I had a couple comics growing up. My dad admits he had most of the comics of the original Spider-Man series, and admits to even having Spider-Man #1, which he unfortunately used, abused, and got rid of. But me personally, I never got huge into the comic books. I was actually more hit by the cartoons, the video games. But I had a couple of the super old school Ninja Turtle comics when they were first coming out. But yeah, not super deep into the rest of the comics, unfortunately.
Well, how do you feel about all the iterations, or should I say the adaptations of TMNT in live action and animated form in those movies? How do you feel about those? Anyone stand out to you as being better than the others?
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up watching the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So on top of the Mario Brothers stuff, that theme is also stuck in my head all the time. But I would say the one thing that stuck out really a lot when I was younger was probably the live action adaptation of the Ninja Turtles. And I'll be honest with you, I watched it with my son a couple of years ago. It still holds up. It's solid. It's a very solid movie, even in 2023.
Oh, man, totally. Movie's what, 33 years old now? That's insane because it came out in 1990 AD.
Yeah, and the animatronics they had, I mean, you can't beat that with CGI. It's just too convincing. So I really got a kick out of that. And I'm 38 years old now, and I still like it.
Good times, man. Good times. Just imagine, not next year, but the following year in 2025, it'll be the 35th anniversary of the original film. And yes, we will be celebrating that on And I Quote channel. Stay tuned for more details as they become available, because that's a year and change off. It's like 2 years off. But hey, time flies when you're having fun. That is most certainly for sure. Yeah, so a lot of people named the original 1990 live action film as one of the better comic book adaptations because it sticks very closely to the original source material. So well done to everybody on the cast and crew and Jim Henson's Creature Shop for putting those suits together.
For sure.
Yeah, they absolutely rocked it and shocked it, as it were. See what I did there? Yeah, a lot of references here.
I like that.
Any favorite movies that stand out to you in today's realm, whether it's what is known as formerly the DCEU or the MCU, or any other comic book adaptations that stand out to you as being, hey, I mean, I've been overly familiar with this property, but I'm digging what they're doing.
I mean, to be fully honest with you, I dig most of the Marvel DC Universe stuff. I think Marvel's dominated most of it, and I think we've seen almost all of it. So I really dig how they're taking a lot of the B-list comic books and bringing them forward. I think giving them some life. I think that's really, really awesome because they don't get the limelight, and so we've been, even though they're new, we can still get into them, still follow them. I know DC's trying to imitate to some degree and trying to keep up, but you know what, they've got some awesome flagships. I'm also a humongous Batman fan. He's my favorite superhero of all time. I can't help it. You've got part of the intro to your show is the original
Batman 89. It turns the big 3-5 next year.
Yep, that was the first Batman movie I ever saw, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, my parents cool with me watching this? Like, it's very dark. But yeah, no, I love all Marvel, all the DC films. When I was a kid, I had a friend of mine whose dad worked at the movie theater, so that was our source of entertainment for a poor high school student with no money. Is we will go watch free movie tickets or free movies all the time. So that was a huge pastime for us.
And I thought going to Blockbuster Video on a Friday night was fun.
Yeah, that's before I could drive though. Yep.
Jeez.
We would go to Blockbuster all the time. Every weekend, my parents would take me. We'd return the game we had, pick up a new game. That's how I got introduced to a lot of the Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo games back in my day.
Goodness gracious. Man, free movie tickets when you were... Oh, gosh, I wish I would have had access to that when I was younger.
It was solid. It
would have made life a bit easier for some of us who are big-time cinephiles or in some cases moviegoers. So, hey. Sometimes you have friends in high places and sometimes you don't. It just depends on the person. Goodness gracious. Good times, man. Good. What was I going to say? Good times. So you basically like 31 flavors of all Marvel DC. That's interesting because some people just like the bash on one camp and like the other. But hey, you can like both and still have a great time in life. So
yeah, sure.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I grew up watching Spider-Man and the Batman animated series and all that jazz. And by the way, you and I have this other thing in common where Batman 89 was our introduction to the Dark Knight himself. And then the animated series came out just a few years after that in 1992. And we were having the time of our lives watching television. So,
oh yeah, come home from school every day and watch the 5 o'clock Batman series on TV. Yep, it was awesome. Yeah. Dinner had to be after that. Dinner had to be 5:30 or later.
I can dig it. I can totally understand that. And by the way, for those of you who are just joining us, this is, and I quote, season finale of 2023 with Nick of Cre8-Bit Designs. If you have any questions for him, by any means, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. And a fun fact, we just celebrated the 30th anniversary of Batman Mask of the Phantasm a little earlier on. So you're more than welcome to go back and check out our movie nerds, our DC nerd playlist, and go back and watch that video after you're done watching this incredible episode of And I Quote. Awesome stuff. You're welcome, because Batman's cool. So when did you decide to become an artist? How did that happen?
That's a good question, because I noticed young when I was middle school, high school, that I did well in art. I just always did. I like to draw. I like to do the different methods of painting and everything. My mom's actually an artist. She spent her whole working career either being an artist, running a small business, or owning an art gallery herself. So I have her to thank for those abilities. My dad was more the math teacher, went Navy route. So you kind of combine those two together. I actually ended up going to college and getting a degree in mechanical engineering. So art plus math gets you an engineer, which is odd enough. So I've always been a big fan of sort of the arts and sort of the technical fields as well. And so I would say regarding doing something with any of my artistic skills, I would say it probably happened. I'm going to go ahead and say 2016, 2017-ish. I ended up going to Dragon Con in Atlanta with a few of my friends who live there. And I remember, have you ever been to Dragon Con before?
Unfortunately, no, but I know a number of people who go every year and have tables. Some of my good friends are indie writers, so they have booths in the Writers Alley and some other places. But yeah, I hear Dragon Con takes up like 6, 10, 12 hotels and boatloads of parties going until like 6 in the morning. No one ever quits. No one ever stops. And I guess it's fair to say it's the Comic-Con that never sleeps. So no, I've never been to Dragon Con, but it is in fact on my bucket list, considering the fact it's about 5.5, 6 hours from where I am in North Carolina, respectively. So I do have plans to go to the ATL next year, but for a different convention, not specifically for Dragon Con. I don't want to get into semantics here, but I hope to go to what is known as Ranger Stop and Pop in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a Power Rangers, anime, TMNT heavy convention.
Oh, cool.
So if and once again, off camera, Nick and I can have a discussion about that. You can always look it up at rangerstopatlanta.com for more details, because their lineup is looking pretty darn good right now. They've already announced a few legendary Ranger actors from the 90s that we grew up on as kids, from the MMPR. What is it? MMPR Zeo era. And they also just announced this week that Dante Basco from Hook and Avatar: The Last Airbender is going to be joining them in the ATL for Ranger Stop and Pop. So
nice.
So there you go. So fun fact. There you go. But no, I've never been to Dragon Con. What's your experience been like?
Well, that was actually the first con I ever went to, was that year. And if you've never been to Dragon Con, it is I would call it, if you go to the vendor hall, you got 4 floors of vendors, 4 floors of vendors. It's a ton.
That's heavy. And
I would say it's the mecca of overstimulation. There is so much going on there. So many people. It is humongous. So get this here. I was walking through the halls. We're on hall number 3 or 4. At this point, we've seen hundreds of vendors. We've everything's getting fuzzy. And I see this one vendor. I don't remember their names, but what they did was they had framed this 3-dimensional art. And for some reason, it just hit me. It just hit me really hard. And the content that they were pushing were like sort of modern video games and indie games. And it was really interesting. And what they did was they took several sheets of like clear acrylic and would print on them and would layer them one after the other. And it gave this cool effect. And they had these big frames, and we were allowed to take them and look at them and twirl them around. It just struck me so hard, and I loved every bit of it. And the booth had a lot of attention. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I would love to make one of these for like Mario Brothers. Like I would love to make one of these and just have it at my house, because with the engineering background, the first thing that always pops in my mind is, how can I make this? So I saw these things and I said, holy cow, like there's got to be something I can do. So, that was 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. And I never forgot it. And then COVID hit. So we ended up moving to Raleigh, North Carolina, right at the start of COVID, possibly the worst time in human history to move to a new state with a new area where you don't have any friends or family. So we get there, and we've got some free time on our hands. So I remember thinking to myself, like, man, maybe this would be a really good opportunity to try to do something. So I remember grabbing an X-Acto knife, grabbing some paper, grabbing grabbing a frame I could find at Michael's, and I stitched something together. And after I put it together, I was really proud. It took me several days to put it together. And then I thought to myself, like, wow, this sucks. this took so long to do, but I love the way it turned out. And I showed it to a few friends, and they were like, whoa, that's dope. Like, that's really cool. Like, I wish I had one too. And I'm like, yeah, I wish there was a way I could do it that didn't take 2-3 days. So of course I thought about it, and I said, well, you know, if I had like some equipment, I could probably like reduce it down to maybe like a half day, blah, blah, blah. So I thought about it, and I hopped online and I looked at some stuff. And you know, with the mechanical engineering background, I've worked with heavy equipment before, and I found this hobbyist laser cutter that was really reasonable. And so I knew I could use it for other school projects and other fun projects, you know, science projects to do with my son, and we still use it all the time. And so I ended up buying it and brought it in, installed it, and used it to try to make one of these shadow boxes. And yeah, it cut it down pretty significantly. I was able to make one in a few hours, and it was clean. It came together so much more nicely. And so I said, yeah, okay, let me try another one. So I put together, I think, a design for either Ninja Turtles or for the Among Us video game. And like, I made it for my son, and he was just like, whoa, this is cool. And he just like wanted it right away. He wanted to put it up on the wall. And I was like, okay, how can I make this better? And it was just sort of a weird natural progression into something that, you know, could become a business. So that's really how it all got started, and how I turned the engineering and artistic side into something that we could give to others.
Man, that's an amazing origin story. And moving to a new place during the Corona Miley Cyrus pandemic. Oh, geez. That's one of the names it was called online. I'm sorry, I'm just quoting.
I like that,
because I tend to do that sometimes on And I Quote. It just happens. Which reminds me, I forgot to say this at the top, but the quote of the month, for those of you watching or listening to this program, the quote of the month is, "You're so money, you just don't even know it." So there you go. If anyone catches that, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Be curious to hear your thoughts. But yeah, my goodness, man, what an origin story. Whew, man, you can't write that into an Avengers movie.
Wish you could.
I mean, I get, well, you could, because, you know, comic books are, you know, hey, you can take creative liberties with all kinds of stuff. It happens all the time. And plus, there's always the public domain if you want to use a certain character or story, because public domain, you could just write your own version of something or whatever. I don't know. It's the case. I know too many indie writers, so I got problems. But on the flip side of that, though, what would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being an artist?
Two things come to mind. The first is connecting with the audience. I like you. I think it sounds like you're into the same things I am. So unfortunately, 50% of my personality is just quoting TV shows and movies and video games. So the number of times I will tell you to keep the change, you filthy animal, or, you know, anything, it just pops into my head. I can't help it. It's just always right there. So being able to connect and relate to similar audiences, I think, is a really cool experience. It's a natural human experience. So I going to the shows, being there, and to be able to just like geek out for 2 minutes with a complete stranger is really cool. I think that's probably the most rewarding part of it.
Giddy up, man. I like it. Man, you're rocking it today. On the opposite side of the fence, though, what are some of the biggest challenges about being an artist?
Biggest challenges? Well, the biggest challenge is time, I think, really, for me. I do have another full-time job. I work a 9 to 5. I'm a husband. I'm also a father. So the only time I really have to do this is either late night or, you know, a few hours on the weekend. So that's been the challenging part of this. I want to keep doing this. I want to do more of it, but you know, it's just a matter of time, really, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and they say timing is everything. So
That's right.
Tempest fugit, time is fleeting. What isn't fleeting is you who's watching and listening to this incredible episode of And I Quote with Nick of Cre8-Bit Designs. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for Nick, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. And if you're joining us live on the replay, thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate it. Now, we do have some examples I'd like to show with the person who's watching and listening to this. So this bad boy here, this is an example of your work. Tell us how this all came about. What was the process like?
That process was painful. This is one of our more detailed designs. But I grew up playing the games, and every time I look at this, I just want to play the game again. Like every time I see it, I look at the individual parts of the map, and I remember the levels, I remember the difficulties, I remember the bosses. So the process of making this was one of complete love and dedication to the game. And if you want to talk about the creation process a little bit, it's done by hand. We take the art, we slice it, we dice it, we plan out our cutting process, we put it together by hand. Each of those little components is glued on there by hand. So it's honestly a complete labor of love. It takes time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another example of your work for someone who may or may not be familiar with this. What exactly are we looking at here? Is that Mario? Is he flying? Has he got the tail there? What's going on?
It's a Mario. Yes. Yeah, that's the second level to the Mario Brothers 3 game. Again, one of my favorites. I love this design. I was honestly trying to find a good way to capture the game, but the game is split into so many parts. So I thought to myself, like, I couldn't just do the level. I'm not going to just do the map. Let's combine them. Let's put them together. So I think this is a good representation for part of the game. Fun fact: a lot of that map is actually cut off. There's a whole secret section off to the right that I couldn't get to fit because it would have stretched it out and made it look too weird. So I did have to take some liberties when I put this together. But I think this does try to capture it. I've also got pieces for all the other 7 worlds as well. That's something that we put together these last couple months. So I feel like we've captured the game completely at this point.
Jeez, man, a lot of pieces there.
A lot of pieces.
Goodness gracious. So it's basically like thousands and thousands of pieces of a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle on steroids.
Yeah, you could a 3D puzzle.
Yes, I was a 3D puzzle. There you go. I believe that's where I was trying to go. But hey, sometimes I get lost. I need a bloody compass to know where I'm going. Just out of curiosity, though, quick sidebar here regarding one of the games, TMNT, the original TMNT for NES. Did you beat the game, or is it too hard to beat?
You know what? I'm going to have to take a pilgrimage back to this game because when I played it, for me, which was 5 to 10 years old, I could never beat it. I never could beat it. I got all the way to the Technodrome. I got inside the Technodrome, but I could not get past it. And to this day, I'm ashamed of myself. I'm honestly ashamed of myself. But I do need, I've got a Nintendo Switch. I don't know if they have like the old ROM for it. Yeah, I don't know if they've got it. I'd love to go back and play it and try it again. But it's on my bucket list just because that was a hard game.
True. I mean, I even had trouble just getting through the first level, getting through the sewers with the Mausers trying to kill you. I mean, my gosh! But
the water level.
Yeah, like you're in the sewer level. Yeah, and then I think later on in the game you have to disarm these explosive devices underwater. It's really hard. I mean, I feel like rough. NES set us up just to fail. Yeah, you
know what though? It taught our generation perseverance.
Yeah.
It did not hold your hand. There was not a difficulty slide bar. You couldn't change it. It was what it was, and you had to deal with it. So it was a tough time.
It was a tough game for me to play. I still have trouble playing it even to this day. I have a what is it called? An NES that has like a couple hundred games on it that I got from a vendor at a convention, and one of them happens to be the original TMNT. Nice. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I dig the theme song in that game. I dig the graphics because it just has a nostalgic feel every time you're playing it. But at the same time, it's very, very difficult to play, and I feel like I just die off too quickly. So give me a break, guys. I'm still using my katanas and nunchucks. I lost the sai. Then it is called. No, I could get it back. Raphael, let it Gabagool.
Man, you got the
I love it.
voices down.
I'm sorry, but I love that movie so hard. And at GalaxyCon at Raleigh, which is, by the way, fun fact, Nick and I, that's where we met each other.
Mhm.
I think it may have been at Raleigh. I can't remember if it was at Raleigh or Richmond, but Kevin Clash was the voice of Splinter in the original movie. So he was at GalaxyCon. I got his autograph. He signed my Splinter NECA Ninja Turtles figure.
I'm so jealous. That's super cool.
And I asked him, I said, well, what's your favorite, I'm asking you to sign this. What's your favorite line in the movie? He's like, I kind of like this. He's like, you can sign my figure. You know what? I'm going to sign your figure with this line. And then he signs it, under it, he says, Kevin Clash Splinter. And then at the top, it says, I have always liked Cowabunga. Because that's the line that Splinter drops at the end of the movie. And I'm thinking, that's sweet. That's just too sweet.
That's solid, man.
Yeah, Kevin Clash is a nice guy if you ever get a chance to see him at conventions. Obviously, he's been known to be the voice of Elmo on Sesame Street, but he did Splinter in the original first two movies. I think they replaced him in the third one. We don't really talk about the third one.
No,
it's got a bit of nostalgia to it, but at the same time, you can pretty much tell the third one is where it just doesn't work as well as the other two.
So let me ask you something about the second movie, if we can take a sidebar conversation.
Oh, sure. Yeah. By the way, just to keep everyone up to date, this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. But yes, go ahead.
Yes. Were you also disappointed that Super Shredder was only on camera for like a minute and he ended up taking himself out?
As a kid, you don't really think about that kind of stuff. And when you look back on it now as an adult, because, Nick and I are somewhat cut from the same cloth because we watched a lot of the same properties as we were growing up, respectively. Yeah, kind of. And also, the guy who was in the suit was my favorite wrestler at the time, Kevin Nash from WWE and WCW. That was his first gig. That was his first gig. Yeah, he was. They needed someone to be the stand-in for Super Shredder, and they got Kevin Nash before he was a pro wrestler. So,
that's super
cool. It bothers me that he was only in the movie for like 30 seconds. He ends up, knocking himself out by punching the walls, and I'm like, dude, the Super Shredder that could have been handled way better. Better.
That could have been way more awesome than it was. Missed opportunity.
I'd say it was a huge missed opportunity. And the other thing that Kevin Nash mentioned in the time that I actually did get a chance to see Kevin Nash at GalaxyCon in I believe it was Richmond earlier this year, GalaxyCon Richmond. Kevin Nash and I were briefly discussing his time on TMNT2, and he said to me, yeah, that cape was so heavy. It was the same materials that they used to make Michael Keaton's suit in Batman.
Wow.
And I thought, whoa, that's cool. But at the same time, I'm sorry you had to go through, being weighted down by the heavy cape, and some of the pieces of the armor were too heavy for you. Considering you're such a big dude, like you're 7 foot. What is it? He's 7'1", 280, 300 pounds. Yeah. I mean, the guy's a beast.
It's kind of like how Arnold was in the Conan movies. Like he was one of the only ones that could single-armed wield the sword that they had made for the movie.
Because it was so heavy, right?
It was so big and so heavy. Yeah, even he was struggling with it. And I think that's funny.
I didn't know he was struggling with the sword when he was making the Conan movies. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the TMNT2 still holds a special place in this 90s kid's heart. But yeah, the Super Shredder angle was there for 2 seconds and then it was gone. So definitely could have been handled 10 times better than what they were given. But at the same time, that movie came out less than a year after the original film, and they fast-tracked that sequel. So if you go back, you would say to yourself, we wish the producers and the writers had more time to craft an appropriate story and make it more impactful than it was, even though I still love the movie. But at the same time, I can realize if you didn't rush this movie, you could have done a lot more with it.
Right.
So, but hey, Jim Henson's Creature Shop was up against a wall, and they did the best with what they had. So.
Right.
My hats off to everybody who worked on those two films, because that was not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do. But thanks for asking the question. That's my gosh, man. TMNT. Whew, I could talk about those movies all day, son. We were there. Actually, fun fact. Here's another fun fact for you before I pose the next question. TMNT 2, The Secret of the Ooze, is the first movie I remember seeing in the theater.
Oh, wild.
Back in 1991. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You didn't save the ticket, did you?
Did we sit? No, I didn't save my ticket stubs until I was a bit older.
Okay.
And then I got rid of the ones that I did end up saving. So
I don't remember the first movie I saw in theaters.
You don't remember?
No, I don't. I don't think we did it like a ton when we were super young, but it was more when we were 10, 11. I think I remember seeing some Disney movies
Yeah.
in the theaters, but yeah, we were that was mostly high school for me.
Oh, I can dig it. I can dig it. My family took me to see Lion King back in '94 when that came out.
Yeah, that was my youngest brother's favorite movie. He had like 8 stuffed animals and was
Jeez.
obsessed with the Lion
He was
King.
obsessed with it. So I take it you and him and maybe your family members took him to the Disney store when Disney had a store.
Where was that?
Well,
At Disney?
well, I mean, we had a Disney store in our mall where I used to live in Maryland. I don't know. Did you guys not have one where you lived?
Oh, I don't remember a Disney store specifically, but I mean they had like Toys R Us and other stores that had some Disney stuff, I think.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
no,
Yeah, we had a
not
Disney
specifically.
store in our local mall. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
No,
I
didn't know
wish-
that existed.
But yeah, they were a thing, man. I wish you would have had one. You would have had a heck of an experience, let me tell you, because that's where I got. I think that's where I got the genie lamp, the lamp from Aladdin. You know, where you rub it and then you pop it open, and it has like a different response every time you shake it up or rub it.
You know, I think I was 12 when I stopped believing that genies could actually pop out of lamps. You know, after Aladdin, I thought to myself, like, for sure, one of these lamps has to have a genie in it. So I would just try. And, you know, my grandparents had the old brass, like, ashtrays and stuff. And I think a couple of them were, like, in the shape of a lamp.
Geez.
So the number of times I tried to get a genie to come out of those was you know, kind of a, I don't want to talk about how many number of tries I gave it.
It's okay. If I find an image, I should say, of the toy I used to have that involved the magic lamp from Aladdin and it had different responses every time you would shake it up or whatever, I'll send it over to you off screen here, so that'll be fun. But what we don't have to worry about doing off screen is this incredible episode of And I Quote, which you are watching or listening to right now on And I Quote channel with our good friend Nick of Cre8-Bit Designs. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for him, we'll let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. If you're joining us live or on the replay, welcome and thank you for being with us. Boy, have we gone on some interesting tangents here. This has definitely been interesting. So have there been any special memories for you from being at conventions, whether you were there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Any special memories?
Yeah, that stand out to you.
Yeah, sure. I think that first Dragon Con we went to, I was dressed up with my wife and our 2 friends, and I think we did Futurama. So my friend ended up being Fry. His girlfriend at the time ended up being Leela. And then me and my wife decided to be some interesting characters. I was Bender, and she ended up being Bev from that one episode where Bender and Bev ended up being a thing. And she was a giant beverage machine. And we did the cardboard, the coloring, and everything. I took an old trash can and I had spray painted it. I had the foam head. I mean, it was everything. It was, I wish I had a picture of it right now to show you, but it was like to the nines. It was top notch. And I'll never forget it because it was impossible to walk. It was impossible to see. It's hot. It's Atlanta, and you're in downtown in the summer. So, but I also remember being stopped every 20 seconds to get a photo made, or that for someone to take a photo. And it was really cool for the first hour or two, and then you just get sick and tired of it. So that was actually the only time we ever wore cumbersome costumes or were that standoutish. So we'll never go that hard again to a convention dressed up.
Oh my goodness. I'm sure someone came up to you during that point in time, where was it, Dragon Con, and said, "Shut up and take my money."
Oh, several times.
Did anyone drop that line on you?
Bill.
Yeah, they gave you $1 bill. That's awesome. Or $1 bills. They gave you singles, is what I'm saying.
I got money.
Not like those singles where you go to a certain club that I'm not going to mention here on the air, because we try to do our best to keep our things family friendly here on this show.
No performing necessary.
But no, absolutely not. But my gosh, shut up and take my money, man. At Dragon Con that particular time, was Billy West there? The voice actor, was he there?
Oh shoot, I don't remember. We spent like 90% of the time in the vendor hall, to be honest with you.
Can't say that I blame you.
Yep, and it's been 7 years since that moment now. So we learned our lessons that year. But I'd say in terms of memories, that one really stood out. I didn't actually start attending the cons as a vendor until 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Dragon Con 2022 was actually my first show ever.
Wow.
Yep. And,
talk about being thrown into the proverbial lion's den.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if what we were doing was right. I came with some grid panel and set up and just crossed my fingers and hoped. We had a good time. Honestly, it was, like I mentioned before, it was connecting with the audience and just being able to relate to the content that we were putting out there. It was super cool. And after that experience, we said, okay, let's sign up for more. That was really cool. So
yeah, you pulled a Kevin Bacon. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we do 6 to 8 shows a year now, and we're looking to get into some more. So that's going to be what we do this year, is knock on the doors of some of these other big cons and see if we can get in.
Oh, in 2024, your New Year's resolution is to go bigger, go to more conventions.
That's right. Yep.
All right, man. Well, I hope the odds are ever in your favor.
Thank you. Appreciate
and
that.
I trust we're going to see you again at GalaxyCon in Raleigh.
We're already signed up. Yep, we've got 2 booths this upcoming year, so we need to blow out the inventory a little bit.
Oh, you got 2 tables this time around. Okay, think business is about to pick up, JR.
I hope.
All right, good for you, man. Congratulations. Yeah, feel free to look up GalaxyCon online. I believe it's galaxycon.com. They have different shows in different areas of the country. There's one in Richmond. There's one in Raleigh. There's one in Columbus, Ohio, I believe, GalaxyCon Columbus. There's one in, I want to say, is it Houston or Dallas?
Yeah,
there's so many. There's like a dozen Galaxy Cons. It's ridiculous to keep track of these things. I know Fan Expo has a bunch of shows too, like Fan Expo Boston, Fan Expo Philly. There's Fan Expo, I think Texas, Fan Expo San Francisco, which was held a couple weeks ago, which had a huge lineup there, including a lot of Star Wars veterans. In Fan Expo San Fran, what is it? Is it San Francisco? I think it was San Francisco. Yeah, that was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So from what I heard, I wasn't physically there in the room, but it was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It was crazy.
We'll have to check it out.
I mean, I don't know if you and your family want to travel 3,000 miles to table a show, but if you want to go big or go home, that's one way of doing it. Or you could just stick to the shows that are on the East Coast, which are a lot easier to navigate.
Plus, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got Fan Expo in Philadelphia. That's another big show that you can table at, or maybe even Fan Expo Boston or something like that. I don't know. Or Awesome Con in DC, Washington DC, our nation's capital.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Awesome Con a couple times in the last couple of years. It's a good show. I think you and your family would like it.
Okay. Yeah, nice. I'll take a mental note.
Yeah. Feel free. Always, like I said, I'm not trying to plug anyone the other show here. We're not being. By the way, we're not sponsored by any of these conventions we just mentioned. But if you're interested, feel free to go to awesome-con.com and for more information. I believe it's March 8th through the 10th, 2024. So, because normally it's held in the summer, but they pushed it to March because I believe that's the only time they could get the venue. Or that's what happens with conventions. Sometimes they have to switch the schedule because that's the only time they can get the venue. Which March, really? I mean, granted, you're a few weeks out from spring, but early March. That's going to be March Madness, dude.
Madness.
A lot of people are going to be up in the madness for basketball. I could care. I'm not a sports person. I'm a movie person, but hey, whatever. So, sorry, those are weird tangents. But anyway, back on the rails here, if we could, for just a moment. What advice would you give to aspiring artists out there?
There's a lot of advice I would give to aspiring artists, and it really depends on what you're going to do with it. What's really nice is most of these conventions have booth options for artists, and they have these areas called Artist Alley. They usually offer 8x8s or 8x5s, just slightly smaller than some of the bigger vendor spaces, but at really, really good rates. So I know if you're an aspiring artist, the struggle is really to get your content out there in front of people and to expose yourself to other artists and to more business and to make those connections. And I honestly think these cons are an excellent way to do it. Whether you are into cons or not, just getting out there and getting in front of people who will like your art and who will give you good feedback, I think that's really key. So if you can swing it, I would recommend getting a booth. And just the better decisions we made for our business was to listen to people who would come to our booth and go, "Oh man, do you have any shadow boxes in blah?" and give us some sort of topic. And we would take note of what people were asking for and start working on those. I've got a billion ideas in my head, but it doesn't mean any of them are worth anything. So we listen to a lot a lot of the consumers out there, and we listen to other artists and what they're looking for. So I would say if you're aspiring, that's probably the most solid way I can think of to do it.
Knock on, man. Is there a particular video game that you hope to make as an art piece, or maybe someone who's involved in video games, like a video game voiceover actor or artist that you hope to work with or meet at conventions somewhere down the line?
I've met a few. I actually met Charles, the voice actor for Mario.
Oh, Charles Martinet, yeah.
Yep. And this was at, I think it was GalaxyCon this last year, or yeah, I think it was GalaxyCon. Anyway, he signed one of our Mario Brothers shadow boxes, and
What was his reaction?
It was the very end of the day, and he was looking to get out of there, so he was just like, "Oh, that's cool," and kind of like scribbled it down quick. I caught him at the wrong time of the day, but you know, he does. I could hear his Mario voice over everyone throughout the con, so he was having a good time. He was really digging it.
Fantastic stuff. Just out of curiosity, though, are N64 games eligible to be made from you and your creative team, like GoldenEye?
Yeah, we absolutely consider it. You know, we have to consider some of the licensing stuff. You know, we're working slowly to make sure that we get some of this stuff. So it's a little complicated, but yeah, we would love to do more N64 stuff.
Yeah, because you know, someone who grew up in the '90s and had to go to his friend's house because I didn't have one. Had to go to his place and play all the N64 games that he had, including GoldenEye and Mario Kart 64, Super Mario. What was it? Super Mario, I think it was called 64, or just Mario 64. Yeah. You had Extreme G, you had Hydro Thunder, you had Wave Race 64, if you remember that one.
Oh yeah, we my first introduction to the N64 was Shadows of the Empire, the Star Wars game. Such a fantastic way to introduce non-classic Star Wars characters into people's minds. Yeah. But you know, I have a funny story about the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, what's
up? You know, I grew up with the systems that came before that. You know, your Sega Genesis, your Super Nintendo, your Nintendos, all of that. And you know how they all had the 2 controller slots? Like,
yes.
You could play one or two player. And you know how they say you can't teach a dog calculus, right? The dog's just not going to get it. I remember seeing the N64 and seeing the 4 slots. And my first question was, well, what is this? Like, what is this? You can't play 4-player video games. That doesn't make any sense. And we played Mario Kart with 4 people on the screen, and just like I entered a whole new realm of understanding and nirvana. Like, it was ridiculous.
But you had a lot of friends come over, have some fun, and maybe even some sleepovers.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Playing games until 3 in the morning.
4 in the morning at least.
4 in the morning. Was it 4 in the morning? Is that what you did?
We stayed up all night, honestly. Just ruined the next day for ourselves.
Jeez. Did you
ever? Great. It was good times. You know, we play GoldenEye with you know, the 1-hit kills, or we play single player with invincibility mode. And we would just, you know what though, we found out later in life that you could actually enter a series of buttons and unlock all the cheat codes for GoldenEye, which really ruined it, because I spent pretty much the entire summer of 1998 achieving the invincibility cheat myself. Like, did it. It was the hardest one in the game to get, and it took me probably 300 tries before the stars lined up and I could actually unlock it.
Good Lord, man.
So
that's
if anyone out there has done the same, you know, bless you. I applaud your tenacity. It took a lot of tries to get it right, and you know how hard it is. A lot of it's just random luck.
Yeah, I'll give you that. How many times have you seen the movie GoldenEye? Are you a Bond fan?
I'm Pierce Brosnan was my introduction into the Bond movies.
Same here.
So yeah, I watched GoldenEye. I've seen it probably 5 or 6 times. But then obviously that opened up, you know, Daniel Craig came into the picture, and I loved his Bond movies too. And then I started watching some of the older Connery stuff, and I loved it. It's just awesome, classic Bond. So I'm a huge Bond fan.
Awesome, tacular stuff. Yeah. Well, hey man, that's cool. Hey, free plugs for everybody. In case you're a Bond fan, you can always go back to our Movie Nerds playlist, because we've done watch-alongs for the 10th anniversary of Skyfall back in 2022. We've done one for Timothy Dalton's The Living Daylights from 1987. That celebrated its 35th anniversary back in 2022. And then next year, we're going to be celebrating the 35th anniversary of Timothy Dalton's swan song, License to Kill. That turns the big 3-5 next year. By the way, have you seen the Timothy Dalton iteration of Bond?
No, I haven't. No.
You should check it out because I think he's underrated as a Bond actor.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
He only did 2 movies. His tenure was very short because there were rights issues and not creative differences, but just there was a legal issue that broke out between the Broccoli family and the Bond franchise, and it took too long to get settled. So Timothy Dalton was too old by that point, so he had to step away from the role. And then they recast him with Pierce Brosnan at 95. So, there you go. Fun fact. But feel free to look up the Timothy Dalton films that are known as The Living Daylights from 1987 and License to Kill from 1989. Feel free to look them up on DVD or Blu-ray or however you go about streaming your movies. I'm just saying. We're Bond fans. We can't help it. So.
I've never heard anyone pronounce it Divida before, but I might start doing that from now on.
Yeah, well, I picked that up from Derek Zoolander, the Zoolander. Because, fun fact, when you watch the original movie Zoolander on Special Collector's Edition DVD, the DVD opens with him saying, "Hi, I'm Derek Zoolander. I'd like to welcome you to the wonderful world of Divida."
That's another movie we quote all the time. The number of times if we see something small, we go, "Is that a car for ants?"
A center for ants. The center has to be at least 3 times bigger than this. What is the point of teaching kids how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
I'm not an ambi-turner.
Yeah, there's another one for you. Too many references to count here on this episode of And I Quote with the incredible Nick of Cre8-Bit Designs. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for him, by all means, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. If this is your first time here, welcome. Whether you're joining this live or on the replay, we thank you for being with us. Oh my gosh. Too many references and too many lines. But you know what? The best part about all of this is this episode of And I Quote, and every episode, I should say, of And I Quote, is powered by our good friends over there at Poddex. Now, check this out, Nick. Poddex are the hottest, and I do mean red hot, new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. You simply shuffle up, you ask a question, you let the content roll. You can get yours today at poddex.com and use that promo code Ryan10. That's RYAN10. Ryan10 for 10% off your order. Thank you very much to our good friends over there at poddex.com. So, Poddex wants to know, what is one thing you'd wish you'd spent more time doing when you were younger, Nick?
First off, I was going to ask you how many of the pod deck cards you had used in our interview, but so what did I spend a lot of time doing in my childhood was the question?
Well, I don't want to give away spoilers for how many questions we asked, brought to you by our good friends at Poddex. But the first question that we are going to ask you that is presented by our friends at Poddex is, what is one thing you wish you'd spent more time doing when you were younger?
Oh, man, that is a very tough question because I grew up in the 90s and I did everything that's amazing. I had super soakers. I played outside. I still have my pod collection. It's upstairs right now.
That makes one of us because I got rid of all mine.
I couldn't get rid of them. I had the slammers that like the smelly slammers. So every time I open it up, it smells like used bubble gum. It's great. No, but I guess if I could pick something for what I could have done more of
when you were younger.
Okay, I got a good answer. I wish I would have spent more of my allowance on the Gen 1 Pokemon card game.
Ooh.
Because I bought a few. Like when it first came out, I had a buddy of mine introduce it to me at the lunch table in middle school. And I hesitated because I was just like, it's kind of weird. And then I heard other people getting into it and they showed it to me. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of cool. And I bought a couple. So I managed to get my hands on a couple of the first gen base set cards. And I got some first gen cards, but then they went to the second, third gen, blah, blah, blah. And they moved on to your jungle sets and the fossil sets. I wish I had gotten into it faster and spent a little more time kind of collecting those and getting into that. Because one, I love collecting them. I think they're really cool. Two, they're worth some money now. So that would have been a really nice investment, but I didn't know what the word investment meant at the time. So there's that.
Pokemon's a big property. And it's been a game. It's been adapted into a TV series. It's been adapted into a couple of movies. I think there was the more recent one was Detective Pikachu with Ryan Reynolds. Which Ryan Reynolds, you play the same character in every movie. That's really not acting. Ryan. I'm sorry. You're playing the same person. You're basically playing yourself. If
Which-
not, you're playing an iteration of Deadpool in each one of your movies for the last 10 years. So way to go, Ryan Reynolds. Whatever.
If you think about it, he's really just playing a not as funny version of Deadpool.
Yeah, I can get with that. I don't know. I'm just not a big Ryan Reynolds fan. I'm sorry to say. I'm just not. He doesn't do it for me, really. He has done a few good movies in his past, don't get me wrong, but just no, Ryan. No.
That's fair.
No.
That's fair. That's my wife's celebrity crush.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So I can't.
Well, this isn't a question from Poddex, but what's your celebrity crush? Do you have one?
Me, I do have a celebrity crush.
Who is it?
My wife would not want me to talk about her, but I always had a soft spot for Natalie Portman myself.
Oh,
yeah.
Natalie Portman from the dreaded Star Wars prequel trilogy. Okay.
She was a triple threat. She was an actress. She was attractive, and she's smart. On top of that, I think she's a Harvard grad.
She went to school with the guy who invented Facebook.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
She did. She went to school with Zuckerberg.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my crush. Always will be.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
She is. She's still very pretty to this day, no matter how young, because she doesn't seem to age, really. So, way to go, Natalie Portman. You found the key to immortality. Like a few other actresses out there that don't seem to age. You know what I mean? It's just gosh. I don't know. What did you think of her performance in Love and Thunder?
I liked it. Again, it takes a lot for me to hate a movie. Love and Thunder was great. It was definitely over the top a little bit, but I still love the movie in general. And Natalie Portman, she can do no wrong. So I still digged it. She's still Natalie.
Okay. So she can still crush it as Lady Thor.
I think so.
Okay. That was my first bad guy. One of the lines she says in the movie or something is, that was my first bad guy. I can't believe I just did that. Yeah, you got a powers beyond your belief. Whatever Thor's line is, I don't know. I never saw the film. I just remember seeing the trailers online because every trailer is online. Every single trailer for every single movie that's ever been made, even the ones that give away all the spoilers, they're online. So you want to watch the ones with spoilers? Watch at your own peril. But Poddex wants to know the following. What is something you don't mind, and I mean don't mind at all, sharing with other people?
Oh, something I don't mind sharing with other people.
Yes.
Fantastic question. You got to gauge your audience, honestly. And obviously my nerddom. If anyone throws out a quote that I recognize, I will fire back immediately with another quote if I can, just to make that connection. I will always share the nerddom as long as I get a sense that this other person appreciates it as well. So I have no problem wearing that and putting that out in front of people.
Well, that's just awesome. That's awesome. If I say one line and someone can quote the next line back to me, that means that we're on to something here. So that always helps. I mean, wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. I got to get a new route. I thought we delivered everywhere. Anyway, that's from the OG, baby.
Yep, that's a good one.
Which I'm sure you know where that goes. So that's
he's late. $5 off.
No, actually, he says $3 off.
All
right, don't mean to be that person, but since I've seen the movie so many times, he says, "Hey, Mikey, you ever think about what Splinter said tonight? I mean, about what it would be like." Yep, no, not having him. Time's up. $3 off.
Oh wow, you got the emotions and you have one of those like photographic memories, like because I remember the lines sort of in general. I'm gonna misplace a word here and there, but you seem to be a steel trap.
I can't help it. The truth of the matter is, if I watch something once or twice, the whole script goes right up into my noggin.
That's awesome. What's a man of your talents doing here?
I know. What am I doing? Wasting my time being a podcaster, having good conversations with other like-minded fans. I know that's such a waste of my time, right? Because we're only on Earth for so long. So I don't regret doing any of this stuff. We do this because we love it, and we do it because we like interacting with you, our incredible audience, and meeting new people and understanding their fandoms and all that jazz. So, yeah, it's a wonderful world. Anyway, so Poddex wants to know: did your childhood shape you into who you are today? Yes or no?
100%.
Why is that?
100% yes.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because I honestly think my generation and generations close to my age grew up in the weirdest time in perhaps human history. I grew up with no internet.
Mm.
So we played outside and threw mud at each other as a pastime. And then a few years later, with the advent of video games and computers and the internet, it life completely changed. Granted, I was almost a teenager at that point when that was happening. But yeah, I mean, sure, my childhood was, I had a lot going on in it, and it changed wildly over a decade or two. So yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you feel that people complain too much about these days?
People complain about too much these days.
Could be anything. Could be an app. Could be Starbucks selling too much coffee. It could be anything.
I think there's a lot of obsession with the Hollywood relationships and people complaining about things that people maybe shouldn't be thinking about so much. There's a lot more to life. And, I personally believe in having a positive mindset and focusing on the positive in your life. So I try to keep complaining in general to a minimum. So I would just say to anyone here, if you're looking for advice, just focus on the things that you think are actually important and stop complaining so much.
Ching, drop the mic moment right there. I wish I had that sound effect, but we don't. Unfortunately, we do not have that in the studio. I apologize. But one of these days, maybe we'll get it in here, add it to the soundboard or the set here, respectively, and it'll be a lot of fun to use when it comes to doing certain shows during certain times of the day or the night. It doesn't matter. But Poddex wants to know, did you have a favorite teacher or maybe even a teacher who made a big impact on your life?
Yes, I did. I think. I had a few, and for different reasons, honestly. So I'll never forget my shop teacher. His name was Mr. Omenson. He was an older guy. It was 20 years ago, but he was an old Vietnam War vet. So all of our teachers back in the day were like straight to the book, kind of like hold your hand, get you through it. This guy was like, you guys make a mistake in my class, I'm gonna grab the chicken wire and I'm gonna hang you from the ceiling. Like I'm talking like this guy was like intense. So he had an impact, but maybe not for the best reasons. But I tell you what, I learned how to use power equipment very well because I was not going to mess up in this guy's class. So there was that. And I also have to say probably my physics teacher back in high school, Mr. Garrity. He was also my cross country coach. So I academically and sports wise, he sort of had a big impact on me. And I'll never forget the day that he used Dragon Ball Z as an example in one of his physics classes. I thought, this was back in 2002, 2003, when Dragon Ball Z was like at its peak on American television. And one day he had a lesson on momentum, right? And he goes, if you got two equal objects and they're pushing against each other, they're going to deflect equally. And he goes, now think about the Earth. And if you throw a ball at the Earth, the ball's going to bounce. The Earth isn't going to move. It's got so much more mass. And then he stops and he pauses and he goes, unless you're a Super Saiyan, then you can push the Earth and move it. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God. It was such a cool connecting moment. Like at that point I realized like, oh, even adults can be cool nerds too. And it's okay. And I like the example he used.
Wow. That's over 9,000 right there. Oh my gosh. DBZ references in schools. Man, none of my teachers ever used pop culture. I mean, they've hardly ever used what are known as pop culture references to a particular movie or a TV series or even just a fictional character that may appear in a book. I mean, gosh, I wish more teachers would have done it. If they had mentioned something like, hey, imagine like Luke Skywalker did this, or, the Force was used to do this, but school would have been a lot more fun.
Yeah, you got to make teaching fun. You have to.
I would venture to say yes. There are ways for educators to make school and what you're attempting to teach these kids fun. You just got to find ways to do it. There are all kinds of resources out there, and also there are books you can find on how to incorporate pop culture into your lesson plans, or what is known as the curriculum, I think is another word that they use. Mm-hmm. So feel free to look it up, look these resources out. I mean, you can always check out Google, #not a sponsor of this show. But yeah, that's amazing that he used a DBZ reference, because just out of curiosity though, sidebar on that, do you own any DBZ merch? Do you have any DBZ hot toy statues or maybe some Funko Pops laying around somewhere?
We've got some Funko Pops. We have the full, back when DVDs were a thing, DVDs, if you will.
Thank you.
We had the whole Dragon Ball Z set, like the
set.
whole shebang. I think that's the majority of it. I've got a couple. I picked up some DBZ art from a few of these cons I've been to. The cool thing about being a vendor at these cons is that people like to trade. So I've got some merch. They've got some merch, and we're just like, yeah, all right. Kind of like the old days. That's really cool.
Oh, that's really good stuff. Just quick sidebar here. Did you get a chance when you were at GalaxyCon this year in 2023? Amorable Art. You ever hear of them? You ever hear of Amorable Art with Pat and Alexis? He does watercolor ink type artwork.
Oh, maybe. There's a good chance I ran into him, but the name doesn't ring a bell.
Well, Pat, Alexis, and I think I want to say it's Kim. The three of them run that booth. But Pat is the artist, but his wife and his family help run the business respectively. But it's amorableart.com. He does like 30 shows a year. Him and his family are everywhere, including the GalaxyCon shows, because they live up I think somewhere in the northeast of Virginia. So feel free to check him out, amorableart.com. Also, we've had the pleasure of interviewing Pat Kenrick of Amorable Art right here on this very program. So feel free to go back and watch that episode on the And I Quote playlist. You can find it on our YouTube channel at And I Quote channel, respectively. So if you're by the way, I've interviewed a lot of indie artists. If you go back and look at that playlist, you may recognize some familiar faces that you've seen at conventions.
Cool. I'll check them out.
You have to look at the thumbnails and see if those names or those faces ring a bell. Let me know. Quick sidebar, Your Honor. There you go. Well, thank you, Poddex. Those were brilliant questions. Well, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Nick of Cre8-Bit Designs. I hope I'm saying all of that right.
That was good.
I'm trying to be creative here, folks. Well done. Thank you very much for being with us on the season finale of 2023's And I Quote. Nick, you are a gentleman and a scholar. If a person who's watching or listening to this wants to find out more about you and where can possibly purchase one of your incredible pieces of art, where's the best place to find you?
You can find us on Etsy. You can just look us up, Cre8-Bit Designs. You can see it down there at the bottom, the Cre8-Bit Designs. We've also got another website. It's, believe it or not, Cre8-Bit Design without the S.com. You can check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Pinterest as well. So I'd like to thanks, Ryan, for having me on the show. It's been really cool talking to you. And, since you're in Greensboro and I'm right here out of Raleigh, if anytime you want to just grab a beer or a coffee or something, let me know. I'm around.
Giddy up, man. Sounds like a lot of fun. We just gave away spoilers. Hey, this is where we live. Thanks, guys. All good. It happens. Some of these things just come out naturally. Some of these secrets are going to be revealed eventually. I don't know. Secrets out. But thank you so much, Nick, for being here. We really greatly appreciate it. My name is Ryan of And I Quote. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram personally at RyanRPM5. Check all the links in the description below of where you can follow Nick as well as myself on social media. We got a lot of great things coming your way very soon. Congratulations to Nick and his team on his incredible business, all the wonderful things he's doing over there. And by the way, we're this close, my friends. We're this close to hitting what is known as 1,000 subscribers, the big number, the big kahuna. And once we do, we're going to throw a great big live stream celebration. It's going to include returning guests. Nick, you're invited to come to the party as well. We're going to have surprise guests. We're going to have special giveaways that include 11x17 prints presented by our good friend Art of Pinto on Instagram, also known as the Art of John Pinto, such as Doctor Who. All the doctors on this one print can be yours. You can hang it up on your wall in your office space. Just make sure you take care of your business with beating up the copy machine before that. And then you also have Darth Vader from Star Wars. If you're a Star Wars fan, I don't know if anyone's a Star Wars fan here on this show, but hey, it happens. If you're a fan of Star Trek and Strange New Worlds, the hit show that's taken the world by storm, you could be eligible to win these prints. We can send them to you. Send them over to you. You can hang them up in your house, your man cave, the woman cave, the office, the school, maybe even your classroom if you're a teacher. Who knows? Possibilities are endless. So help us reach 1,000, and we can do that for you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, if you want to support the show, you can buy us a pizza like those Ninja Turtles. Spare a slice while supporting content creators such as myself and others. Links are located in the description below. It's buymeacoffee.com/andIquote channel, I believe. Also, we got merch. Link is in the bio. We got shirts. We got hoodies. We got stickers. We got coffee mugs. That's right. Coffee mugs. All kinds of great stuff. It's the holiday season. Get something for that special someone in your life or treat yourself, as they say on television or movies. I don't know. We say it all the time here. I can't help it. But check out the link in our bio. All the stuff is there. All the great things are coming away very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun this year in 2023. We've had a great time doing all these shows with And I Quote. We've started new shows such as the Convention Chronicles. We've started new shows called The Meaning of Fandom. We've been doing movie watch-alongs where we celebrate a particular movie that's turning a certain age, where you watch the movie along with us and we do our own version of an audio commentary. Basically, it's like Mystery Science Theater 3000, only it's a lot more fun. So, and we talk about the good movies, not so much the negative ones, because we try to be nicey nice around here. Even though sometimes in movies it's not always a pretty sight, but hey, what are you gonna do? But all those things are coming your way in the new year of 2024. We got some great plans for you. We got some really good ideas. I think we believe that you're really going to enjoy, and we're going to have more episodes of And I Quote. We're going to have a lot of great indie creators, a lot of great artists, a lot of great writers, publishers, cosplayers, people from all different walks of the creative rainbow of life. And wow, I can't believe I just said that. But that's what's going to happen. So on behalf of myself, everyone here at And I Quote, I want to thank each and every single one of you for tuning in, for listening, for watching, for liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel. I want to thank Nick once again for being our guest on the season finale of And I Quote 2023. This has been so much fun. I've had a great time doing this show. I've had a great time presenting this content to you with so many different guests. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank Case, who's helped design our new backgrounds, our new thumbnails for the And I Quote channel, because we did a bit of a rebranding not too long ago, a little bit more so recently. Also, I want to thank Cade from Cartoon Commotion for our conversations about how we can improve the channel, move things forward with certain things, certain aspects of the creativity of it. So thank you to everyone who has supported us, everyone who has been a part of this family, everyone who's tuned in, liked, shared, whatever it is. Your support means the world to us. It's so much fun doing these things. It's fun that Nick and I can have these conversations and learn from one another and understand one another. We look forward to the incredible things that are coming your way in 2024, because my goodness, do we have some plans. Yes, we have plans, Smithers. Yes, we do. It's going to be excellent. And we also have a lot of movie watch-alongs that we're going to be doing, because we've realized there are a lot of movies that turn the big 2.5, the big 1.5, the big 40, the big 20. Nick, there's a lot. There's a plethora of things we're going to be celebrating in 2024. So happy holidays to you, your families, your friends, your loved ones, everybody. And remember, life is better when supporting other content creators, and Indie supports Indie. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now, it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasmafire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.